everybody. Welcome to The Grow Show. I'm your host, Marijuana Man. Been a while since we've seen each other. I'm glad to be back on your little screen, and thanks for tuning in. Also, thanks for your undying support here through all this time, not only for our movement, but for the BC3 as well. We're not out of harm's way yet. We've still got some court to do. That's not going to happen again until next June, so we got a little time to maybe, legalize pot. But prohibition is still raging out there, and here's a good example. Yesterday's news: more BC drivers high than drunk. I was sweeping through all the news out here yesterday, but upon closer inspection, we may have a few questions. Okay, here's what it says. Preliminary findings from the 2008 British Columbia Roadside Survey found that 10.4% of people driving at night showed evidence of drug use. By comparison, 8.1% of drivers had consumed alcohol. Now, preliminary findings, I got a feeling that that means that they stopped doing the math once they got something that was askew like that. Now, Doug Bairness, who's the Senior Research and Policy Analyst at the Canadian Centre of Substance Abuse, he said, "We've spent the past 25 to 30 years dealing almost exclusively with alcohol and driving. We've had some pretty good success. We haven't solved the problem, but we've made gains. Now we're finding that there is other problem lurking behind the alcohol problem that has to do with drug use. That's disturbing." Now, I find it interesting that he's not disturbed at all by the drunk driving numbers, that he's more disturbed by the drug numbers. But what disturbs me is that they're actually talking about pot here more than not. They say later on in this piece that the most predominant drugs they found were cocaine and marijuana. Now, marijuana hangs around in your system for about 3 weeks. So, pretty good chance they're going to be able to find that in a lot of BC drivers, come on. But the thing about it is, even the headline, more BC drivers high than drunk, that makes me want to say, so what does that mean? High? High isn't impaired. It's not impaired at all. Now, they don't even have a test for impairment for marijuana. In fact, the notion of impairment really only comes from alcohol. Long ago, you could easily see that anybody who consumed alcohol got impaired by it. They began to stagger, and words would slur, and they would fall down. So this is their test for impairment when it comes to drunk driving. Now, all of a sudden, because they got marijuana in the mix, they use the very same test. This is like testing your eyes for an earache. My God, alcohol is so different. It affects your body completely different than marijuana does. All of the different receptors in your brain, it is nothing like it. But now they're raising the alarm that people have this substance in their system, even though there's no test to suggest that it's even dangerous. There's never been a test to determine whether or not you're a better or worse driver under the influence of marijuana, or they've never developed a test to see if you're impaired by it. So this story is just another example of the continuing examples of how they skew the news to keep this prohibition of drugs alive. It's so very important. Now, Doug Bairness has spent his entire life working for the government, doing research on shit that he does not want to go away. If there was no more drunk driving, we wouldn't need this guy. Now, he's got a mandate he's put forth, and let me read it for you. His national target for 2010 is a 30% decrease in the average number of road users killed and seriously injured. 30%? Is that it? That's all he's going to try to do? Come on. Now, he just sloughed over the fact that, we've made inroads, we've done better. They haven't done better. They haven't made inroads. There's as many, if not more, drunk drivers on the roads every single day in this country. 4 people a day are being killed. What's 30% of 4? 1 less? Come on, there's nothing wrong with 1 less. Don't get me wrong, but this guy isn't even trying. So he's being pressured here for sure by the alcohol industry to get off their backs, because there's no suggestion here whatsoever that we even try to reduce the amount of alcohol that people are drinking that's destroying. It's not only drinking and driving, it is through every walk of life in our society that alcohol is destructive. Now, this goes on to say, some people think that smoking a joint doesn't impair you, but it does. All of a sudden now it's about a joint. Eh? The whole thing is about a joint now. Guess who said that? A cop. Constable Dave Babineau, an RCMP traffic guy, said that. Some people think that smoking a joint doesn't impair you, but it does. Huh. Prove it. How about that journalist who interviewed him say, prove it? Because this guy's not a marijuana expert. He's a traffic cop, and he shouldn't have even been quoted in here. But he goes on to say, it changes your judgment, it changes your perception, it changes your reaction time. All of those things are very critical when you're driving a motor vehicle. Prove it, prove it, prove it, Dave. There's no test, there's no science, there's nothing that would back up what you just said. It's just general stuff that you've said that's very hard to refute for anybody. You can't say, well, how does my reaction time? Come on, Dave, let's test it. But you don't. You just say these things. No journalist has the balls to ask, why are you lying about this? I'm stunned. But it goes on. Alcohol is okay. In fact, it's okay to drink and drive. It's legislated that I can do it, as long as I don't blow over their fictitious limit. How is it that they can't come up with a limit for marijuana? Because they take advantage of the fact that marijuana is illegal, to glom on to the protection of society from it. Just because it's illegal, they have to then constantly tell you it's bad and dangerous, when in fact it's not. Here's how much beer you can carry in your car. As much as it'll hold. You know what they want to do with marijuana? Stephen Harper wants to introduce a law. If you're found with marijuana in your car, you'll do 5 years mandatory minimum. If you're found with it in your car, underneath what? 6 cases of gin, that'd be okay. Find a little roach, you go to jail. No test for impairment, no science to suggest that it impairs. Huh. But this is what they want to do. Now, when it comes to drinking and driving, this Doug Barness, I went through his stuff. He has never once suggested that there be a 0 blood alcohol content when it comes to alcohol. Never once. So this is why they skew this little story to make it all about drugs and not about beer and liquor, because those people have lobbied them to not do that. There's certainly been lots of relaxations in the prohibition of alcohol in this country in my lifetime. Since the 50s, the availability of booze has gone up 600%. When I was a teenager in the early 70s, the government addressed a problem of too many minors drinking. We were all drinking. Like that never happened before, but what they did was they lowered the drinking age from 21 to 18. I guess in their wisdom that they saw that these people were outside of their control, and if we lower the drinking age around them, then we bring them back into our control. It makes perfect sense. Now today, when I do research on alcohol, they're including 12-year-olds in their statistics. 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds are all included in the statistics now. Oh my God. So booze is rampant. It's okay. You know, over on Broadway here in Vancouver, they opened a Toys R Us store. Across the street, they have opened a liquor store. The juxtaposition here is insane. I see the convenience for the parent, but come on. Now, there is a code here about how you can present alcohol in our society. And here's what one of it says about driving. You cannot introduce the product in such a way or at such a time that it may be associated with the operation of any vehicle or conveyance requiring skill. Except this. No, Crown Royal sponsors many big automobile race circuits in the United States every year with their logo on the car. Now, what about these guys? They drive around all day with beer on the side of their truck, advertising their product. This is a Molson's truck. Here they've got toys. They've got a toy beer truck for children. But you are not allowed to introduce a product so that it may be associated with the operation of a motor vehicle. Huh. Now, Kiefer Sutherland, we all know about him. He was caught drinking and driving while he was on probation for drinking and driving. What did he get? 30 days, ooh, and a $500 fine. Big movie star, $500 fine. And throughout it all, and continuing today, he is the voice of Ford Canada. So it's okay to have a drunk driver selling us trucks. Nothing wrong with that. Chad Kroger, what about him? He was doing 100 kilometers over the speed limit. Over the speed limit, and blew twice the legal limit of alcohol. He still wasn't charged with impaired driving for some reason. The prosecutor stood up and demanded that they give him a $600 fine and a year's suspension, which they're appealing. Him and his lawyer are appealing the $600 fine. Come on, it'll take longer than a year to get to the appeal. But no, they even took exception, him and his gang, to the officer requesting that he breathe in his face to determine if he'd been drinking. They said it was an infringement of his rights. Well, when it comes to marijuana and driving, what they want to do is take a blood sample. They want to stick a needle in your arm, or they want to swab the inside of your mouth, for God's sakes, to see if there's marijuana. Because they have no sobriety tests for marijuana. Right? We're passing their sobriety tests for booze. So they got to dig deeper, so they got to find if it's in your system. And marijuana can easily be in your system for a number of weeks. Doesn't mean that you're impaired. Now, what else is going on with their stupid booze? You're not allowed to advertise alcohol in relationship to kids. Pretty standard stuff, right? Nor is it to contain any endorsement of the product personally or by implication, either directly or indirectly, by any person who is likely to be a role model. Okay? So that, with the exception, is every major professional sport that your child watches, or plays, or aspires to, or has a role model in. It's all sponsored by booze. Basketball, football, baseball, hockey. Hockey in Canada, 825,000 kids are enrolled in minor hockey under the age of 18. Professional hockey is sponsored by beer. In between during the ads in the hockey game, I watch beer ads back to back with car ads. Booze and cars, booze and cars, booze and cars, back to the game. Now little Johnny's watching that, because he's watching the game, because his role models, his idols, are playing the game. They get to see the Vancouver Canucks with beer images all behind them. The stands, when you look in the stands, you can see people drinking beer, big bottles of beer, big cups of beer, beer lights all over the arena, back to back with beer ads, car ads, beer ads, car ads. And then you find out that the greatest killer of teens in Canada is drunk driving. My God. I don't hear Doug saying anything about that. He's not concerned about that, it would seem. Booze is okay. Go get drunk. You'll be all right. Nothing will happen to you. Go smoke a joint, they'll put you in jail. With no science, no test. It's all about prohibition paychecks, folks. It has gotten so big, this industry. So many people are addicted to the money that they're getting. They will lie, lie, lie to you. They will do anything, just like they've done in this thing. This is what they're up to. Why are the RCMP getting a voice in this newspaper about that issue? They shouldn't have one. But here's what you got to do. Here's what we all got to do. We got to write to our members of parliament. These are the people who make the laws and can change the laws. It's not you and me. It's not mom and pop. It's not the general public. It's the 300 or so members of parliament who need to be told by their constituents that this is what you want. Tell them you do not care about their personal agenda or their personal morals. They are there to do the bidding of Canadians. Over half the Canadian adult population wants marijuana legalized. The Canadian Senate has told them to do it and given them every single good reason why they should, and that has been ignored. Go to frankdiscussion.com. That gives you all sorts of ammunition. It's a great site for quotes, for statistics that are on our side and that are right, that aren't skewed, that are scientific and have been tested. So do that, and let's see if we can't get this stuff legalized next year. Tomorrow, who knows? But thanks a lot for tuning in. I sure appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon. Keep watching Pot TV and supporting all of the marijuana movement that's out there. Everybody's doing good work across the world. We've got to keep out there, keep working, and keep exposing the hypocrisies. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace and pot.